Good morning to all of you. It's so great to be here for this summit, and I would like to thank ET for inviting us all. It was also so great to hear. I couldn't join when Dr. Ranga was speaking, but he's a great, he has played a very important role for simplifying the regulatory system in the country, and I have been hearing him. Thank you, Ranga, to join this summit today. It was so great to hear Sudeep Gupta, the kind of work which is being done in cancer care in this country. And then I joined the next session where we were talking of value and cost-based costing. This session is understanding healthcare professionals. And perhaps this is the first time I've been attending various meetings where there's a session on healthcare professional, which is so important. And congratulations to ET to have this session. We keep on talking that patient is the first and center for everything what we do in healthcare. And the healthcare professional, they play a central role to deliver care to the patient. So it is fundamental. We understand the role of healthcare professional. I remember Mahatma Gandhi, he always used to say that whenever we talk of anything, we should see the impact of that to the last mile person who get impacted from that decision. So it is so important that today we delve into the issue. Yes, we know many of the things, but it is important to do it in a more integrated way. The patient is evolving. We saw the earlier session. The patient is changing. He is more conscious. The environment around him is changing. There's digitalization. The demographic profile is changing. The disease profile is changing. So there's a lot of change around the whole area. So we have got a very powerful panel here. Dr. Shashank Joshi, the leading endocrinologist, and more is, I've been seeing him over the years and the kind of difference which he has made and making every day for patient care in this country. So we are fortunate to have him here for the session. We have Dr. Kapadia. So good to have you, Kapadia, and the kind of experience which you have over the years. So great advantage of having two healthcare professionals who are there as far as the session is concerned. Then we have Gagandeep. He's making a lot of difference, both over the years in different companies, and he's an example of how integrating healthcare and talking the concept of holistic healthcare. And it is so good to have today, we have got Rachana Acharya, who has got medical background, and I was surprised to know that she has done also business management education from IIM Calcutta. So good to have her here. And we will get Goutam. Goutam is CEO of Skilling Council of India, Government of India. And unless we get skilling focus together on what we are doing, the whole concept of healthcare taking forward will not happen. And Goutam is playing a very important role, and that's why I wanted Goutam to be. So we will start with a very, very straightforward flow of discussion. We will make it very exciting for all of you. You are spending the morning here. So I will start with how the whole environment is changing and how the role of healthcare professional is evolving over a period of time. I will start with Dr. Shashank Joshi. Over to you, Shashank, and then over to Kapadia here.
So I think the entire healthcare professional ecosystem is changing. And I think COVID has been a big disruptor. And we are involved into an hybrid care model. And I think healthcare professionals are, I think, still overwhelmed and overburdened currently with the digital overload. A very informed or ill-informed patient, because patients get information from sources which are not evidence-based, and that has been a big disruptor, and that needs to modulate. Also, access to information has led to more confusion in treatment protocols. We also have more options. So though we have an area of affordable access, we also have a problem of plenty. But I think what is the biggest disruptor is that in the good old days, maybe 30, 40 years back, healthcare provision was didactic. We saw the patient, we examined the patient, we had a dialogue with the patient, we gave them a prescription, and patients blindly followed it. That was the paradigm, maybe 3 decades back. I think currently we have a conversation with the patients of the choices the patient have, based on the affordability, based on the access, based on the adherence potential of the patient. He may afford everything, he may have an access to everything, but if he's not compliant, and also the patient and his family members are a part of a shared decision making. So I think the entire ecosystem has changed in that direction, Sudarshanji. And therefore, when you see the current healthcare provisions, I think it is looking at that perspective. And healthcare professionals are more empowered and more educated than before, than probably our peers were, because of access to information. And as I told you, that part of the healthcare delivery and connectivity has got integrated with technology. So that has also been there. Of course, there are 2 models evolving, rural, urban, and in-hospital and community-based practice, or in-clinic-based practice. And both are different models and have different protocolization. But I think the key cog in healthcare professionals or practitioners is not just the doctors. I think it is our support teams. It's our educators, it's our dietitians, it's our nurses who are the key cogs to delivery. Because when the ecosystem is overburdened with surplus of patients with a disease or people living with diseases, we are outnumbered. For example, I am from endocrinology. We have currently only 1,000 plus endocrinologists in the country.
Right.
We had 7 institutions having endocrine as we talk, and we have more than now 80 institutions doing endocrine training. But still there is a deficiency, because we are the largest population on planet Earth, 1.4 billion. You can't have a population with around 200 million plus people living with diabetes or pre-diabetes being taken care of by 1,000 people. And therefore, we need to also partner very closely with primary care teams or our family doctors. And that's where I know Hozie for almost last 35, 40 years now. And I think it's important to do that shared partnership. And I think we don't have more than 1 million plus doctors. So I think that adverse ratio is affecting us. And we need to, one area which is still lacking in the healthcare system is we need to empower our allied health professionals with more education, more skill building, and more capacity building. I think that's an area we have become an export house. In the entire healthcare ecosystem, the best of us are being moved out of India. And I think we need to stem that route. Some of us came back, and we have no regrets coming back. But having said that, I think it's important that if we are able to get our healthcare ecosystem, entire system, better skill build, I think we will have a better healthcare delivery. And I think that's the key, because outcomes are ultimately driven through that. And we are all outcome centric. And I think if we want to make a change, that's the change to make. It's education.
Yep, absolutely. It is so insightful always when one hears Shashank. You get a lot of insights. And what 2 areas which I catch up from here. One is compared to didactic, which it used to be earlier, it is more conversational. The patient is more empowered. And second, he is talking of education of entire system, which is very, very important. Thanks, Shashank. I'll go to Dr. Kapadia. He's very experienced in the game, over 40 years in the practice, and he will get a different perspective to the total exercise. Over to you, Dr.
First of all,
Kapadia.
thanks for inviting me to this important panel discussion regarding healthcare and the role of doctors. First of all, it is the patient-centric. Every patient is like a textbook of medicine. And therefore his treatment, his all that should be catered to his needs. Secondly, there should be team management, as my friend Shashank has said, with physicians, surgeons, pathologic team, all that, to get him a correct approach. Thirdly, it has to be not only physician not only treats, but he also tries more of a prevention also. So there are not readmissions to the hospital, readmissions to ICU and all that. So and then secondly, from the role of the doctors, he should also update himself with the CME lectures, which my friend Shashank is very, very popular in his subject. And now there is something like a telemedicine, which has started in a big thing after the COVID. Telemedicine is okay, good. A patient who is very far off and in the COVID contagious and all that, where the doctor's clinic, he may get infection and all that. So it plays a more role in dermatology, but in subjects like psychiatry and all that, it doesn't play a very important role. Secondly, if I go into little history of medicine, in this our times, there were, except X-rays, there were no these fancy scans or anything, PET scans, and so our revered teachers used to always say that you must have eyes of an owl, the heart of a lion, and the fingers of a lady's. You must examine a patient. That touch is very important. You are not a machine that the patient just comes to you, you ask a few questions, and you rattle down the investigation, and he comes next day and you give him the diagnosis. That is what I think Dr. Shashank will also agree with me, because the physician is supposed to make a differential diagnosis. And history taking is very important, particularly for people of our generation, where we are nothing much investigative. History taking is very important, which is lacking today. And secondly, the sense of touch which the patient wants. That doctor-patient relationship should be there, because the patient puts his full faith in the doctor when he comes to him, and he expects the full treatment. And of course, the cost-effective and value-based. I would prefer value-based, but of course, cost-effective is also to some extent important in our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kapadia. And I will go back to the question of personal touch, history taking. That's a very, very important topic, and we will get to that questions later on. Let's go to Gagan, because Gagan has been playing a very important role in different sectors. How the role of pharma companies is evolving to support doctors for better patient care. Over to you, Gagan.
Yeah, I think, like Dr. Joshi said, if you really look at COVID, COVID was a penny drop moment, I think, not just for the healthcare professionals, even from a pharma perspective. I think first and foremost, we've started getting on the journey of digital transformation. So today, like if I look at the enterprise Boehringer that I work with, today we have most of our webinars as well as interactions are far more digital than they were, prior to COVID. But more importantly, the needle has moved that we have more digital and less physical. So I think that's clearly telling you the way pharmaceutical industry is responding to some of this, because as the workload and as the challenges go up, it's really important that we also are able to personalize our conversations with physicians. And here I'd like to share one of the examples that we saw in India, which is quite different from what we've seen elsewhere, was that physicians are happy to engage on WhatsApp rather than through emails and others. And I think some of that nuances, if the pharma industry is bringing on table, is really helping in terms of conversation. Always the content has been the king, and more science and more data versus promotion always helps in really creating an impact. I think the second part, which is the more exciting part as I see, is in the next, I would say, 3 to 5 years from a pharmaceutical interaction perspective with HCPs. And this is based on, if you really look at the way artificial intelligence is going to, provide us with much, much faster, quicker, accurate, personalized data. It can potentially provide us with technology where physicians can interact potentially with folks whom they genuinely, data that they genuinely personalized want that data across. And I think the last part of it is in terms of, moving from point A to point B in terms of either stocks or in terms of overall as an industry, in clinical trials or in supply chain, it's going to significantly change the way we've operated in the past. Only for better, because it's going to reduce times, improve decision making, and going to help that. And lastly, I'll say is
from a physician and pharma perspective, all this is going to go is significantly help in fulfilling the gap that Dr. Joshi raised upon, was all around the education piece. So if you have good set of data available, and if you have far more informed decision making, which will flow out of that. So to me, I think the transition has started in the first 4 years, but it is still, I would say, nascent as compared to what we'll see in the next 5 to 6 years.
Thank you very much, Gagan. Very, very important. The role of technology, the role of AI, how do we leverage going forward becomes very, very important. Coming to Rachana, Rachana, you are a medical doctor and you are providing support, medical service support to Johnson & Johnson, one of the very admired companies. You would like to emphasize how the product profile is changing, how our support system is changing to doctors. Over to you, Rachana.
Sure. Thanks so much. I think to build up to what has been already said, right? One, I think on the disease profile, we heard in the earlier sessions as well, there is a demographic shift, there's a disease shift with the demographics. From acute, I think every acute disease is also somewhere leading to some of the chronic manifestations. We all know today viral fever, which used to be a 3 days fever, is no longer a 3 days acute viral fever, right? So I think everything is having some chronic impact and the diseases are moving to chronicity. Within chronic also, I think from pharmaceutical space, what we are seeing now is because we are at a point in time where it's I think one of the best time where we are advanced on technology and we are fueled with data. That's helping us to understand our disease much better. The diseases which were undiagnosed earlier, today we are able to diagnose them because of the diagnostics that are available, the technology that's there. It helps us also to understand the depth of the disease much better. We look at diseases like cancer, some of the rare diseases where probably treatments were not available. Today, most, if we look at the FDA approvals, the largest FDA approvals, of course, have happened in oncology space, but beyond that, we see good number of approvals happening in rare diseases where probably there were no treatment options available. So I think on the disease pattern, that's a big change which we are seeing. We're also seeing, I think that's helping and enabling our healthcare practitioners to provide, and our patients who are at our center today, to look at there is an option for treatment. The other place where I see both technology and the role of healthcare practitioners and patients is increasing is even in our clinical trials. More and more our clinical trials are becoming decentralized. The perspectives of the patients and the HCPs from real world practice is becoming an important consideration today, even in a clinical trial design. And then, of course, to look at outcomes which are not just about treatment outcomes, but also quality of life considerations, morbidity, which become important endpoints in any clinical trial design.
Thank you very much, Rachana. Building on this, yes, there is a change taking place in terms of expectation of patients and the role of healthcare professional. It requires a gamut of skilling intervention across the system. And we have Goutam, and I'll request him to speak about skilling intervention. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So first of all, thank you, ET, for inviting us as an organization who does something which is not on the top priority list so far, to be very honest, which is called, how to have skilled manpower. I would just take a moment to emphasize on how critical it is that we focus on skilling part of it or skilled manpower part of it on every aspect, that we as an organization are mandated to provide skilled manpower and ensure that there is enough skilled manpower to the sector. I started as a medical representative, sir. So I've known you, Dr. Joshi and Dr. Kapadia, having worked in this space. And I know that you would love to hear somebody or love to have an association with somebody who adds value to your conversation or your decision making. Now, if we look at the pharmaceutical workforce which is communicating with you, you can filter out 90% of it as not so skilled, and only 10% you would possibly communicate with, correct? As a pharmaceutical organization, when it was a matter of adding a huge resource group as a workforce, we would hire a lot of people just to possibly carry out a message that we have this product with this brand name at this cost. This is no longer effective, you know. So when we transition from the volume based, which would possibly have required such advertisement through manpower who would just carry the brand name and the price point and just focus on the distribution, to value based, which is adding value to HCPs. And then you should open your door to say that the next one who's coming in would possibly have some information or some value added part which will help me make better decision, quicker decision, or I would possibly enrich my own knowledge base. Now, for this to happen, we have to actually forget a lot of things that we have been trained on, and then reskill ourselves or upskill ourselves. Government, yesterday's news is government's allocated about 8,000 plus crore rupees for skilling intervention. Just think about it. There is a ministry called Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. There is a sector skill council which is responsible for developing skilled manpower for the sector, not only for just having an interface with HCPs, but also how to make quality products, how to make better clinical trials, to have modules where clinical trials executives can be trained and skilled so that efficiency is added, to have more regulatory professionals, to have more sales and marketing professionals skilled enough that they are communicating the right thing to the HCPs for making a better decision making. In all, requirement of skilled manpower is essential ingredient if we have to transition from this volume-based to value-based. I have seen in my personal experience, having worked in multiple organizations, that the clear difference between a most successful organization, like one Gagan possibly leads, and a not so successful organization is skilled manpower. You can clearly differentiate that these people come to me and talk, they are highly skilled, and those who are not so skilled. Moment has come now to recognize and prioritize skilling as one of the important intervention, other than adoption of technology, other than adoption of the most latest intervention across the world. How do you enrich and enhance the human manpower that you have, which will deliver you better efficiency and take you to the next level of value that we are talking about?
So thank you very much. We touched different concepts. One is skilling. We talked of product portfolio. We talked of conversation, emphasis, empowerment. The critical question which always arises as far as healthcare sector is concerned, if I compare with the pharma financial sector, the use of technology has been tremendously high, where we are way behind in technology induction, digitalization of the disease and the profile and the use of AI. So that is one aspect. And second aspect, which Dr. Kapadia was talking, are we losing human touch, which is fundamental. So how do you balance this, and what can be done to increase digitalization? Shashank, I will like to speak because that becomes a very important issue. When we talk in any policy circles, we are way behind compared to financial sectors, the country, the way it has done. So that is one part. And second, how do we balance this human part, which Dr. Kapadia talked? Over to you, Shashank.
So I think Sudarshan ji, that's a great question. I think maybe 10 years back, if somebody told me digitalization of healthcare and came with a EMR, I threw that person out of my clinic. because I thought it is taking more time. I can scribble a prescription faster than a computer. Uh, and I think again, COVID was a big game changer for me. I met by accident two individuals who put internet in the mobile phone, Jahangir Modu and Terry Spoon, and I worked with them as a consultant to do an RCT on creating the human digital body twin. And with people from IIT Madras. In fact, Gaurav Raina, who made the UPI app for finance, actually worked with Dr. Maluk Mohammed, who actually created a digital twin for human body. We did RCTs in Bangalore. Now we are doing RCTs in Cleveland Clinic. We are actually getting into diabetes remission, PCOS remission, obesity remission, just through lifestyle. But it cannot be just digitalized. It has to have an ecosystem. It has to have skilled manpower. I need a coach. I need a doctor. And I need to be supervising it with an empowered patient who also is digitally savvy. So to get that whole ecosystem in place is not easy. And all this has a cost attached to it. And then we need to generate evidence base in this space. So I think it's in nascency. I think Gagan also made that point of being in nascency. I think we are there, but not there. And now we have the deep seeks of the world and the chat GPTs of the world disrupting it further. So I think time has come to integrate digitalization as a part of our lives. And I think somebody just alluded, I think Goutam alluded to WhatsApp, and I think Dr. Kapadia alluded to it. It has intruded our lives. Doctors' lives, it has intruded, clearly. And so I think it has intruded patients' lives also. I think it is prime time to integrate AI and technology into day-to-day care of continuity of care, in adherence models, in ensuring that people are getting more education. All that is appropriate, because filtering information is also the key. Today there is so much of information available on the net. What is evidence-based? What is not evidence-based? Because now, which are the patient educators? Okay, number one comes probably YouTube. Number two comes Instagram. Number three comes Google I searched. These are the top three. Wait times of a doctor's clinic is usually around an hour and a half, 2. So they are sitting out and actually Googling all this. I don't blame them. And I completely agree with my friend Dr. Hozie Kapadia that history taking art, the value touch, all that has gone. And doctor is just looking at making a diagnosis and giving a appropriate treatment option. So I think in that entire ecosystem, I think after that, the continuity of care over the next 3 months, over the next 6 months, the follow-up of care, I think technology is right there. And I think if you are able to fingerprint it for individualization, it's the key. The other thing is, approach is very personalized. I may do 10,000 steps and I may burn X amount of calories. You may do the same 10,000 steps and you may not burn. You may need 5,000 steps, I may need 20,000 steps. So, in that personalization of medicine, we can understand human biology better. So whether it's research, whether it's education, whether it's patient care, I think technology needs to be embraced. And therefore, we need to actually educate and skill healthcare sector in technology education. See, we have 3 areas where we did not do education for healthcare, which is very limited. One is technology. Second is lifestyle, including nutrition and physical activity. And third is communication. I think these are the 3 key cogs. If we are able to do entire across spectrum, whether it is the nurse, the educator, the person in the hospital who's the assistant, health assistant, or the doctor, entire ecosystem, if you are able to teach them a little more communication, little more lifestyle, de-addiction strategies, and probably, teach them on being tech savvy, I think then you can close the loop. Till we don't do that, I think this loop closure will be very hodgepodge, heterogeneous, and not very organized.
Fantastic. Very, very good. Very good. Gagan, you would like to add on this? Very, very interesting points. Yeah.
No, absolutely. No, absolutely. Very pertinent points. I think the way I also see is there's an opportunity available with digital and tech intervention. I firmly believe, what would have taken us in trying to build physical infrastructures and getting to the last mile decades, now potentially can be done in years if we really focus our energy and, of course, with the right filters and in the right way itself. I think firmly believe the technology, can solve a lot of challenges. I mean, as an example, as a country, one of the challenges we, in addition to education adherence, is also around diagnosis. And today, you have use cases where AI can potentially help you scan a large set of population in a much shorter period of time. Uh, the other aspect of it is in terms of treatment itself. Digital therapeutics can come in and genuinely support the overall drug-led treatment to improve the outcomes. In our context, what it does is, if you now look at the macro picture of having lesser hands, more patients, it is actually going to assist in freeing up physician and their time and effort, which will help improve the outcomes. And last point I'd like to say is, we also got to keep the upstream in mind. This is democratizing R&D. It is the ability to predict and focus on the right clinical trials is going to change the way drugs are found or digital therapeutics are found. So I think it's really exciting, and I personally believe, like finance, which was the last decade, I think the Internet 3.0 health is what is going to be really. You'll see the fusion of tech and health together.
Rachana, you would like to add here?
I think Dr. Joshi and Gagandeep has covered quite well. I will just add, I think, and in three perspectives. One, from a R&D, it has helped us, the whole digital and technology has enabled us to accelerate the drug development and research time, and that enables us to bring drug faster and with better data to our physicians. That's one which from R&D, which I would say. The second piece is towards healthcare practitioners, and Dr. Joshi mentioned, right? It's also becoming sort of overwhelming digitalization, right? I don't know how many webinars he must be getting an invite of, but that's where is the opportunity of doing not really personalization, I would say doing hyper personalization, which is what today Facebook and Instagram does with us. So can we really understand what our patient and practitioners need, what kind of content, at what time? Not really just bombarding them with the data when they don't even require that data. That's the evolution for us, and I think the foundation of it is a good data. Today, there's definitely a great work that's happening in our country, but I think what's more required is how can we lay this foundation very strong on data that enables us to make that switch of hyper-personalization to both our patients as well as to our HCPs.
Dr. Kapadia, will you like to add anything before I ask Shashank if he wants to add anything? Yeah, Kapadia.
Yeah, as of course the preceding speakers have said, technology is important, but I am still a school of old thoughts where I feel that the doctor should come to some provisional differential diagnosis and then order a few tests, not order a battery of tests, and then next day when he comes, okay, on your report you are diagnosed with this. I mean, I don't think that is the scope of a medical profession. So technology is important. It has to be taken care. And the thing, it has to be fused with clinical diagnosis. And of course, now that artificial intelligence has come and people on WhatsApp and what knows, all those things are there. So technology is taking rapid strides, and it is becoming more and more difficult for people like us to take stock of it. But it has come to stay. And the doctors also have to take part of it. And it is absolutely a fusion of a mind with the machine. The machine cannot overpower the mind. Ultimately, the human being is superior. We have developed artificial intelligence. So everything has to be in a balanced way.
Thank you very much. This is a very important note. We'll have only one question and then I will wrap up. Any questions from the audience, if there is any question? Anyone? So maybe just a few thoughts here and to wrap it up. The point which Shashank was making, and it's so important a point, we have to integrate technology, we have to integrate education, we have to integrate communication. There is no doubt about it. But let's not forget mind over machine, what Dr. Kapadia was saying. I would also like to take this discussion forward because India has to move up the value chain both in terms of giving care and discovering product. Because being in the policy making area now, unless we move up the value chain in discovery space, and that what Gagan was talking about and Rachana was talking about, digitalization and the database in this country will be so useful for offering better care and take care of the shortage of people, as well as will help us in our discovery process. India can be the center of innovation hub, although we are the pharmacy of the world. But if we can combine technology with our mass production, we can make difference. And the points which have been mentioned by this group will be very, very useful. A lot of work is being done in this space by a lot of startups. Hopefully, we should see deep sea kind of model in India. $8 million, you develop the model. We will see some frugal innovation taking place. And a lot of Indian entrepreneurs are working on it. And next decade will be the decade where we make the difference, integrating technology, communication, education. Thank you very much. We had an outstanding panel, and it has raised a lot of room for thought, and we will work forward to take the agenda. Thank you very much.